Oh, did you just yank that information from the slide?
Hello. 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 Okay. Okay. Cool. Thanks for greeting.
No.
All right. How are you guys? Good? Excited? Happy that like the assignment is done. Any, yeah.
What do you think the next assignment is due in a bit?
Probably next Tuesday, by next Tuesday. And then 5th, is it 5th? Oh, okay. If that's 5th, I mean, like, if I post it on next Tuesday, it's gonna be like the Tuesday after spring break. Like the due date will be pushed. So don't worry about it. I'm good at improvisation. Did I show you guys like you know, like the text visualization in the first class? Like a text that responds to sound. Did I show you? I did? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm actually out of town next Tuesday for a music performance. Like I'm gonna perform a piece of music in New York City. So unfortunately I can be here. So next Tuesday, it's likely that like there's gonna be lecture recording. I might not be punctual, so please bear in mind. Any feedback about assignment 2? Was it helpful? Good, yeah. Well, I mean, it was. I kind of designed in a way that, like, you know, it is tricky. You know, it was not ideal, I would say. Like if you were to, because like I wanted to like one of you guys to like use specific selectors. Like some doesn't make sense, but like you know, it's like how can I make you use like certain selector? Like you know, I'm designing a way, like in a weird way, so that you can use certain selector. But I'm gonna post key. Is I guess late day's over today. Maybe it's like someone is still working on it, so I'm gonna wait until probably tomorrow. Cool. So we're gonna talk about JavaScript. Like this is now it's gonna feel like CS course today. Maybe it was not like that before. So JavaScript has nothing to do with Java. Although I guess they want to sell the programming language. Like there's some similarity for sure. Like you know, syntax-wise, pretty similar. It's a dynamic programming language. everyone know what it means? Like when I say dynamic programming, it means that it's not like Java or C++ or C where you have to compile them, but like it's rather like Python where you have like a console or you can like run on the fly, run a program on the fly. It's loosely typed language. What's the opposite of it? Opposite of loosely typed language? Strongly typed, right? Like where in C, C++ you have to declare variable type, right? Like integer, I, semicolon, float, or like, you know, double. So you have to declare like variable type. In JavaScript, it's loosely typed, which means that the type of variable will be determined by the value that we assign. Yeah. So, and then like it could even change like dynamically. So let's say A was integer, like a number in the beginning, but then it could be string later, it could be array later, and so forth. We can even convert the type of variable dynamically. So like JavaScript is not necessarily tied to web programming. Of course, it's used in web programming the most, but like it could be anything. Like let's say, as long as there's JavaScript engine that you could develop, it could be used to control IoT, or it could be used to control server-side programming. Maybe you can come up with some data statistical package to like written that use JavaScript. Typically, JavaScript engine is written in C or C++ probably. So it's pretty effective language, and then it's used probably one of the most like widely used language today. Again, we're gonna use inspector a lot. Typically, when you want to emphasize something, you like tell the same thing 3 times, but I have one more, which means it's pretty important. So like you've been using inspector hopefully. Let me actually open that up. And I would like you to open inspector today because we're going to use some inspector. So this part is console. So if you don't see this, if you press escape key, you're going to get the console. So let me just make it bigger. Okay, so getting a like inspector from Google side is not a good idea. So let me get it from somewhere else. About this guy. Okay. So that's too big. Again, if you press ESC key, escape key, you're gonna get console, or the other way to go is like just press this console tab. And then the whole screen will be console. So let me actually do a few things regarding loosely typed language, which means that if I want to declare a variable, I'm going to let a equal 1, and then it execute that statement. So if I retrieve a, okay, so I'm going to retrieve a, and then it's going to give me 1. The console is useful for, you know, if you need a calculator, it's going to evaluate any expression that could be parsed. So a plus 1, a equal a plus 1. Now it's a is 2. And then I told you that it's loosely typed, so I can assign string. Hello. Now it's a is string. and then I can check the type of any variable. It's going to be a string. Let's say I'm going to go back to 0, and then type of A will be number. Like terminal, you can use arrow key to go back to the previous keyboard command that you typed. So I'm pressing up button right now, down button, down arrow. So it's pretty neat. And then you can think of like anything, like any kind of operator that you would imagine in like Java should work. Like I don't know, like 7 divided by 5, or modular. What else? Oh, multiplication for sure. What else do we have? True. And operator. True and false is. Oh. So it's pretty much the same. But again, the point that I'm making here is that you got to be familiar with console. It's very useful for debugging. You'll be able to evaluate any kind of JavaScript expression in the console, and you'll be able to retrieve any variable that is available in that context or lexical environment. If you know what it means. And then you can, because it's web engine, it's going to have some existing, keywords. For example, document is one thing, which is pretty like a giant element that has everything. Okay, so I'm going to use console today. The other website that is useful, I don't know if you heard of it. Like these days, a lot of people use codepen.io, but I like jsbin.com as well. Like everyone knows JSBin? No? Yes? First time? Why is it taking so long? Am I on the internet? Yes. The reason why you may not like it is because you cannot connect to the website. Other than that, it's pretty good. Hopefully, it should come back. But basically, maybe we're going to use console then. Okay, so did it work? Okay, got JSBin. I don't get it. Okay, no worries. So what I would like you to do is to open console and then run these 4 lines, everyone. Everyone should run this, like each line, and then press enter and see what happens.
Do we need semicolons?
Stylistically, yes. Go to any website, or you can even open a new tab, and then right-click, press inspect. I guess you don't really need semicolon to run it, but it's in general nice to use semicolon. Anybody having trouble? Like raise your hand if you're having trouble. Oh, there's one more now. Everyone got it? So what does console.log do? Okay. Yeah. So it's basically what print message, like print statement that you would use. What is the other thing? What's something equivalent in C Java? System out print line, is that right? What do they use in Python? Print. See out, or those sort of things. The console.log, it will be something that you want to use if you want to debug your code. What does alert does? Yeah, so it creates a pop-up window. How about prompt? And then did you see, did you type something there? And then it's going to return in the console. If you type something in prompt and press OK, whatever you type in the console, in the input form will appear in the console. So prompt return string. How about confirm? Someone who didn't talk, yeah. Name, please. Sorry.
It's similar to like alert, but it just says cancel.
Okay. Did you check out the return thing? What does it return? Yeah, if you press OK, it's going to return true. If you press cancel, it's going to return false. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, so good thing to know. But these are, I guess, tied to web programming. Because let's say JavaScript is used in some other context, like in the server-side programming, they're not going to have alerts. They have console.log, but I cannot guarantee that every JavaScript engine will have console.log. So this is kind of like a specific things for web programming, not tied to JavaScript. How to include JavaScript in HTML? I guess today, everything that I'm going to talk about today is more about JavaScript rather than web programming. But these are the ways to add JavaScript code in your HTML. So it's very similar to CSS, where you use before you use style tag. Right now we're going to use script tag. And then to include external code, you're going to use this script tag and then specify the source, which is basically URL, absolute URL or relative URL, and then you have to close it. It's still a random one that I gave, but if you have JavaScript file, it should work. Although we're not going to do this today. In general, statements can be separated with a semicolon. Semicolon may be omitted. And then line breaks is going to work. It's going to work only if you wrote a complete sentence, statement. Otherwise, it's just going to keep parsing. For example, let's say a equal to 0 is gonna work, but if I have a incomplete sentence, I can have a line break and then complete the sentence. So when I have line breaks, and then if it's incomplete, it's gonna go to the next line and then find something. So if you want to make a line break in console, I think you have to use Control Enter. Is that right? Or for me, it's Command Enter because I'm using Mac. But for those who use Windows, I think it's gonna be Control Enter. Hopefully. Oh, maybe Alt Enter. Shift Enter.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Shift Enter. So sometimes you want to write like the whole function instead console. You may want to use Shift Enter. But we're gonna go over function later. Again, comments, very typical double backslash works, and then you have a multi-line comments as well, one you would expect in Java or C++. Variable naming, you can use alphanumeric value and $, and underscore. First character should be alphabet. It's case sensitive. There's some reserved keyword which you cannot use for variable names, like for, if, sort of thing. Variable declaration. There are 4 different ways to declare variables, and modern JavaScript only suggests these, like the top 2 ones, let and const. Basically, let is, I don't know, basically like, this like a typical declare method that you should use, where you put let and then variable name and equal, and then like a value that you want to assign, and semicolon, of course. If you don't specify value, the initial value is going to be undefined. So there's a primitive type called undefined, which means that like this variable is not defined yet. Const is almost exactly the same as let, except that once you assign a value, you cannot change it. So let's try that. So let a equal 1, and then I can change the value. But if I use const t equal 3, and if I assign something else, it's going to complain because I declare t with const keyword, which means that you cannot change the value. So it's like, constant variable that you want to use inside your code that you know that you're never going to change, and then you don't want anybody to change the value. You want to use this constant keyword. A fun thing. Do you think it's going to work? And then it's going to show you the answer. So this is how JavaScript converts number to string, because like the following one was string. Of course, this is different from when it was number. I can combine strings with plus, concatenate string with plus operator. How many of you knew bar instead of let? Some people, yeah. Everyone knew, like, I mean, like someone, like those who knew like JavaScript, people use let mostly. Okay, that's good. I'm a var generation, so it's hard for me.
Var has like different scope rules, so
Yeah, so it's, if you don't know var, just don't use it. Like you don't have to know. Just keep using a let. If you have been using var, it could be tricky, but like like maybe today is a good day to move on. So supposedly I can just take out these two because it's like an old school method. But if you want to make like your code work for really old web browser, like that are sitting in a library that nobody updates, you may have to use the var. Basically, var is pretty much the same as let, except there's some little tricky thing about the scope. I think we're gonna go over that later. How many thought that like having nothing in front of variable is going to be a global variable? Like, is there anybody who thought, like, in JavaScript you have a global variable? No, that's good. Like, don't worry about it. Like, just like don't even read it. Like, just use let and const. I may use bar because this I'm not used to this like new thing. So basically, what it does, like back in the old days, if someone did not declare variable with var keyword, JavaScript engine is going to go to the top of the JavaScript file and then, like, declare that variable for you. Like, that means that it's going to be it's going to be accessible from anywhere in your code. That's why people thought it was global, like it's a way to declare global variable, but like if you don't really have to know this. Just use let and const. I would even make it gray so that you don't use it. Primitive type, like, there's like 5 primitive type. Undefined, again, is like the value of declared variable that has no assignment in the beginning. Null is a very special value which represent nothing, empty or value unknown. Number, they don't distinguish like any like integer, float, double. Like it's just one number, which is pretty cool. And they're string and they're Boolean value. And the other all the other stuff is typically objects or function. I'm going to go over that. Again, I think I gave you an example. You can check out the type using this type of function. Whenever you throw a variable, it's going to return its type of the variable. Cool. I could probably even do value. And it's going to give me a string. And if I put number, it's going to give me a number. It's like kind of give you what's expected already. Okay. Another variable type that you should know is array, of course, like any other programming language. How you define it, like, with this bracket, empty array, of course, you can declare it with using this like a bracket, and it has nothing. And then if you check the type, of course I named, oh, it's an object. Okay, that's good, yeah. So array is actually an object. Like there are two different objects, but it's not going to return array. Of course, you can assign value. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Let me change the name. Again, like I'm not doing the right thing. I should have used let. And then if I do it again, it's gonna give me error because I already declare it. You're like overriding it, so you can only declare only one time. So one of the good thing in console is that whenever you have a like complex object, if you evaluate it in console, you can see what's inside. So like press enter, and then there's like nice preview of these array, right? And it could work for really, really long array. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What happened? AR2. It's gonna omit skip at the end, but I can go in by pressing this like a expand button, and it's gonna get I will be able to know, hey, what's in the room number 300, what's in the room number 421, and so forth. So this is really useful. Again, using console is really useful to access the value of complex object, not just array, but also we're going to look at the object as well. So this is why we need to know console to better debug your program. Another cool thing is that because it's loosely typed array, you can pretty much have anything inside array. Like, array 3 is 1. Oh, how do I have it already? Array 4 is going to have 0, 1, and then string, and then Boolean, and another array, and null, pretty much everything. And then how do I access it? How do you access? Exactly like how you would expect. 4, 5, and then if this multi-dimensional array, you can have 2 bracket and yes. How do I set the value? Exactly the same thing. AR, like you just use this bracket thing and then give it an index starting from 0, of course, and then I change this value. Oh, what was that? AR4, and now AR4 is gonna have the value that I just entered. So it's like getter and setter for array is pretty much same with other language. Now it's gonna get interesting. Object is kind of like a table or map if you use like Java. What's in the Python? Like what's the name of table in Python? Dictionary, yeah, dictionary. Anything that has key value pair, you can use object in JavaScript. You can declare with this new object, or we can just declare with this like a bracket, call it bracket. You can assign initial value. So let's try that. So Can I clear this? Clear. No. Yes. Okay. Cool. I'm gonna say me. Open a bracket, and then my name is. What's the first name? And then you need colon and comma at the end. This is not semicolon or not equal. Last name. Saying. Oh, I don't even know my name. And then what's interesting? Gender, male, and then close it. Again, you can access this object using this like expanding menu, and then you can see all the keys and all the values in it. You can add any, so it's kind of like a, like, you know, like JavaScript object, like object-oriented programming, where you can assign property of object, right? In OOP, right? So, but then we can like do dynamically, let's say age unknown, and then if I retrieve it again, I have this new property that is added on the file. Of course, that means that I can update my name. I'm going to say Sang1 because that's my full name, full first name. What else do we have? You can access this object with like the bracket syntax by like putting the key inside this double quotation. So this is going to be really useful when I don't know what the key is, and the key could be a variable where, let's say, hey, I'm going to let key equal to age, and then I can do this kind of thing, key. Does that make sense? Anybody having difficulty following this? Like, just one way to do it is just keep typing what I'm doing here in your console. Okay, I don't get any question. Hopefully that's a good sign. Oh, I did pretty interesting thing here. Okay, let me try that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new property called male, because I know this, like the value of this guy is male. I'm going to say, hey, the male property is going to be true. Now if I look at it, now we have a new property called male, and it's equal to true. Of course, this is a very not inclusive example because I'm using binary for gender. Or maybe for male, I guess it's okay. Because it could, I don't know, it could be something in between true and false. Probably yes. Okay. So pretty much the same as the other language. Now here comes the big difference. Function. So function in JavaScript is an object. Yeah, if I have to pick one sentence from today's lecture, this is the sentence that I want you to take away. Function is an object in JavaScript. What does that mean? It means that basically you can create a variable and then dump a function into the variable. So this is probably, if you haven't coded in JavaScript before, this is like a weird syntax because you have function, you have a assignment statement, but then you have multiple lines that are over 3 lines. So basically from here to here, this whole thing is value of this this variable now. That these syntax sometimes makes it really difficult to read JavaScript because they put line breaks we're somewhere in the middle of parameter or something. Again, this is for now. Imagine that this is the only way to declare function. We have a different ways, but for now, until we see the other ways, this is the only way to declare function. So let's try this. I would actually like everyone to try this with me. Press. Now I have this foo function created. It doesn't call the function because I just declared it. How do I call it? Obviously, it's it's exactly the same in a way that you would expect. If I do this, where do I get this alert message? Somewhere here. Oh, okay. I'm a func. So you can also do, because now foo is variable, you can get the type. It's going to return a function. So again, I cannot tell you how important it is. Function is a value. It is an object. It's like a number, like string, anything else. It's not a separate thing in JavaScript. Pop quiz. What do you think? I'm giving you the answer. String. Okay. Sorry. I thought it was brilliant. Just ruins everything. Okay, so what does that mean? This foo, now variable, it could be anywhere. It could be inside array. It could be a value of this property in object. And then you can call this function using these sort of syntax. I want the first guy in the array, and then I know this is function, so I'm going to call it. And the second guy, the object one property called f, I know this is a function, so I'm going to execute the function. Does it make sense? Yeah, this is pretty important, and it's going to make your life easier later. Of course, function can have parameters. You can put any kind of parameter that you want inside the parentheses. And of course, you can return. So let's use this guy. I'm going to declare it. Full name, John Doe. Of course, I can use this to put it inside alert function. So now full name, return value, is a parameter of alert function. If I do this, I'm probably going to get alerts here. And then you can, of course, have a function that does not return anything. Let's say function is just for print out the message, print out the full name. And I can use this sort of thing, and then call it full name 2, and then I didn't specify anything. Jane Doe. Yes. And then what's the type of this return value? A function that does not return anything? It's going to be undefined. So I would like you to try all these out. I will give you a few minutes.
So since you still use bar, do you not like the arrow function too? Or do you use the arrow function? Since you still kind of use bar, do you also not use the arrow function?
What arrow function?
Yeah, for JavaScript and arrow function.
Lambda function. What is that?
I haven't seen them.
You say like function and then there's an arrow pointing to the body.
Oh yeah, like arrow. Okay, arrow function declarative method. Like it's a. I don't use that. It's a modern one. Probably we're not gonna need it. Are you talking about these sort of thing? Like like some.
You have like const sum is equal to
A comma B, and then you chuck it to some sort of expression. This sort of thing.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I've never used it. Whoa. Oh.
You can also just have the return and the brackets if it's a one line.
Yeah. It's a one line you can put an expression. So yeah, I mean, like this has some usefulness in complex JavaScript code where there's a closure and an object. But like today, we're not going to have any of these today, so I'm not going to. I didn't include it, but I've never used it. Is it called lambda function?
Yeah.
Okay. Arrow. Oh, arrow function. Yeah.
They just got maybe arrow function is kind of like a
Hmm.
nickname for it. Is it fine to use norm with them still?
Yeah. So basically, it's just the same as let some A comma B. Right. This is exactly the same, right? Except the like the lack of this, which I'm not going to cover today. So I don't want to like confuse people right now. Obviously, I have some. So that is exactly the same as this guy, but I'm not going to talk about it because it's confusing today, for the sake of for the contents of today. Okay, so everyone did this example, hopefully. So function is an object, so it could be anywhere. It could be in parameter. It could be in return value. So here it's an example of function call where, so it's hard to explain. So we declare the function call asks minor, whether this person is minor or not. Now it takes 3 parameters. The first one is going to be number. The second one and the third one is going to be function. And then we have this if statement. If age is greater than or equal to 18, we're going to call this yes function because I coded, like I run the program, so I know it's a function. So I'm going to put parentheses at the end, which is going to execute whatever like function parameter that was passed to this. And then when I call this ask minor function, I can call this function in like of course multiple lines, but I'm giving the first number and then function and another function. So the first function is the function that you will run when like age is greater than or equal to 18. And the second function, like the second function is the one that you will run when it is not. So this is like one of the reasons why for the person who never used in Java, like never coded in JavaScript, like it's really difficult to read. Like existing JavaScript code, and then we're gonna have these, like a lot of these later. Any question about this? I would like you to actually do this. Like, I mean, if you like, let's spend a few minutes to try this. Like, you can just copy and paste from the side. So let's see, and then play with this, like, message, like a string message, and see, like, just understand and digest what it means to what it means by function is an object. No, it could be a parameter, it could be a return value. Okay, so let's do it right now. Maybe you did it already, but like, I'm gonna give you a few more minutes. And I'm gonna have a quiz about these. Again, like, this function call, this function takes 3 parameters. First parameter is 23. Second parameter is a function that, like, call alert function. The third parameter is again function. And who's gonna call that function? In here, like yes, parentheses, no parentheses, then the function call of the parameter that was passed to this ask minor function. Okay. Anybody have a question? Again, another emphasis on, like, function is an object. Return value could be function. So what's happening here is that I have this create function, and then inside the function, I'm creating this function. Oh, I should have not used this. Like, I am sorry. Let f equal to function. Did I do the same mistake here? No? Nope, yes, okay, cool. So I'm creating a function called create function, and then inside the function, I'm creating another function called f, and then I'm returning that f. So when I call this create function, I declare a variable called func, and then now func is assigned with this, like, a f function that was created inside this, and then I can call it. So it's what it's gonna return? It's gonna return 20. Any question? Does this make sense? Like, again, the reason why we can do this is function is an object, function is a value. It's exactly the same as 1, 2, 3 or string.
Misspelled function.
Oh yes, thank you. So this is like one example of, like, how difficult it is to read JavaScript code. Can anybody tell me what's going to happen? Yes, that's what's going to happen. I think you can guess from it, but why is this happening? Because this whole thing inside this parenthesis is simply an object, and then if you put parenthesis, if you like if you put parentheses and then call this function, and then you can it's gonna return the function. So hopefully, if this person write in a better way, this could have been a better way to write this thing. So I don't know if this makes sense better, but right now this is basically an object, and if you put parentheses, now it's gonna treat this as a variable, and then we can put parameter of this function is basically a and b. So a is 3, b is 5, and it's gonna return 8, and then we put that into another large function as a parameter, and then it's gonna create a pop-up window with 8. Okay, that's a pretty complicated example. So now, again, I made the same mistake. Up to this point, this is the only way to declare function. And then I should tell you that you can do it another way, in more sensible way, where you put function and function name and parameters. So you can, like, JavaScript will of course understand this syntax, but I didn't introduce it because it doesn't, like, it's confusing, but it doesn't give you an idea of the fact that, like, the function is an object in JavaScript. So these two are exactly the same thing. So when you run this code, it's gonna, like, interpret as there's like a let in front of it. I would recommend you to be familiar with this, like, concept, because now function is basically like a value or object. So scope of variable, scope of, like, variable in JavaScript is only visible, accessible within this curly bracket. So if it was specified here, like, this statement will know what the value is. This guy will not know because it was declared inside this code block. So here comes the difference between var and let. Var, like, let use code block as a scope. Var use, like, a function as a scope. But, like, unless you knew what var was, like, you don't have to know what I just said. Just keep using let. And then all the other stuff works as you expect. Like, there's if statement, comparison works, switch statement, for statement. Like, I don't want to go over this because it's basically the same as other language. Operator, plus plus, minus minus, modular, and so forth. And you can check out the link, w3schools.com for these. Quiz. It's gonna be tricky today, so that's why I wanted to give you good enough time even to type the whole thing. Let's make it available until 2 o'clock. One shot, one attempt, so please take your time. Like, before you type it, think what like, just guess what the answer will be, and then see if that matches with your the answer that you get. So once you're done, you can be